Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of The New World. And in today's video, we recap the dominating win by the Philadelphia Eagles, who took down the reigning back-to-back champs in the Kansas City Chiefs. But one thing that stood out in this 40-22 victory was that the Eagles may have laid out a blueprint to defeating the great Patrick Mahomes or any quarterback for years to come. But before we hop into the video, make sure to hit that subscribe button as we're on the road to 10K subs. Turn on those notifications to catch any new videos on the way. And comment if you think the Eagles can run back their Super Bowl chances for next year and years to come. Bardo, after the Eagles Super Bowl victory, what are your post-game thoughts, and do you think the Eagles found a blueprint to success in the future?
My post-game thought was that was a boring-ass fucking Super Bowl to watch, if I'm just going to be blatant and be brutally honest. I was not expecting that. I don't think none of my boys were expecting that either. I was a little nervous. I did have the Chiefs pick 3-peat beginning of the season. And, of course, throughout the season, I still was confident with that pick. But just the defense, the level of defense, and I just kept on hearing this one data insight over the course of the past few weeks is that Stephen A. Smith, he was leading with this a lot, which is why he ended up picking the Eagles to win, which I was kind of surprised that Stephen A. got a fucking final matchup pick right, because we all know how terrible he is in the NBA with his NBA final selections, but he got one right, so props to him. But you know what it is? It was because of his dumbass nephew. He picked the Chiefs, so I should have known he's actually the bad luck charm. So I'm starting to realize that now, because he's even more incompetent than Stephen A. But Stephen A. kept on saying that the Philadelphia Eagles O-line averages 6'6" and 338 pounds. That is insane. So we all know what Steve Spagnuolo wants to do. He wants to be able to provide a lot of different blitz packages, but he cannot do that because that Philly O-line is going to hold up. I don't know when we're going to start discussing Jalen Hurts and kind of his impact on the season and how people view him as a quarterback, because I ain't gonna lie, I've heard a lot of crazy-ish this morning, and I was hearing a lot of foolishness in the prior days before the Super Bowl, saying that they were already kind of leading up to this moment. Whereas if Jalen Hurts plays solid, and he win, then he's like a top 5 quarterback, and in some people's view, a top 2 quarterback. So I think it's kind of bonkers, but those are the type of combos that we've had. And yeah, he can look like that, but we can have those types of combos because Jay asks, is this formula a recipe for success? And I think that it definitely is. I think that one of the key factors is that this O-line and this D-line, those front, because one thing that my boy Buffy talks about all the time is that in playoffs, these games are won at the line of scrimmage. They're won in the trenches. And if you can't get pressure on the quarterback, and he's able to just sit back there in the pocket for 6 to 8 seconds and, call his wife on the phone, call his fiance, and, order Uber Eats, then yeah, he's going to look really, really good. He's going to pick apart your defense because niggas are going to get open. And when we segue to talking about Jalen Hurts, I do want to just bring up one fact, because I've been hearing a lot of stuff, and Jalen Hurts, he played pretty well yesterday. I think the only big mistake he had was that interception. That was a really bad interception. But other than that, he played pretty good ball. He managed the game relatively well. Didn't have to do a whole lot because of that, because of the defense. The defense, they were just all over Mahomes, and it was really kind of crazy to watch. It just was very reminiscent of that 2020 Super Bowl, in my opinion, when they played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It just looked like the same shit to me, and he was really, really flustered. I think that just goes to show that with these quarterbacks, especially Mahomes, he has mobility, but he's not as mobile as like a Josh or a Lamar. When you put pressure on these guys, you can make any of them look really, really bad, honestly. So I think that was really the biggest takeaway, was the defense. Jalen Hurts did make a lot of good throws. I like that over-the-top throw he had to Devontae Smith. He also had another throw to A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown was killing Duffy, and it's because he has that size advantage. He's going to be a matchup problem for years to come, just as long as he can stay happy, because he was even tripping on the sideline. So Jalen Hurts was like, let me go ahead and get this diva-ass nigga a touchdown so we can stop bitching and crying and complaining, because I feel like that was what was happening. I will circle back on my data insights in more alignment with what Jalen Hurts is, because we have to be honest about who and what he is. But as of now, my biggest takeaway was the fact that this defense is elite. And I was asking Buff last night, we need to kind of start talking about this defense and kind of where they're ranking all the time, because of that Super Bowl performance. That performance was very reminiscent, Jay, of that Seahawks defense with how they treated Peyton Manning, who was all-time great player. That's like my biggest takeaway for the game.
Yeah, man. I was really surprised by this Super Bowl outcome that happened. I will say this, though, because this is my first point. This is what Bardo already alluded to. That was one of the greatest defensive performances I've ever seen in a Super Bowl game. It's up there with, honestly, the 2000 Ravens, the 2002 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the 2013 Seahawks, Legion of Boom, 2015 No-Fly Zone, Broncos, and the previous Super Bowl that the Chiefs lost against with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2020. That was one of the greatest performances I've ever seen, just off of a standpoint of these guys pressured Patrick Mahomes. I think their pressure rate was 42 point something percent, and they did not even blitz. They only ran 4-man pressure. That 4-man front got there. As Jay hasn't alluded to this, but as we was watching the game, I thought Josh Sweat was clearly deserving of winning Super Bowl MVP. They gave it to the quarterback, but it was really just an all-time defensive performance. Everybody played their heart out on that Eagles defense, and if for many of those that didn't watch the game, I don't know who you are, but if you didn't watch the game, do not get fooled by that final score, because that final score, it was very, very it wasn't very indicative of the game that was played. Kansas City was down 34-0 in the third quarter, and they had no chance of life. So I'm gonna start here. I'm gonna start with the Kansas City Chiefs first, because actually no. I'm actually gonna start with the Philadelphia Eagles. I think the Philadelphia Eagles, this has been one of the greatest. Honestly, I have to give most of the credit towards. I forgot the general manager's name. I have to give most of the credit towards him.
Howie Roseman.
What's his name? Yeah, Howie Roseman. I have to give most of the credit to him. The team, he's a sort of, this team has already been to the Super Bowl 2 years ago, and they lost just off 3 points. So we know they have the talent, and they pretty much steamrolled through the NFC that year. Like they didn't really have that much competition going into playing MVP and Patrick Mahomes that 2022 season. So basically, they pretty much had the same talent. They had a down year last year when they were 10-1, and then they proceeded to lose. What was it, like 5 or 6 of their last couple games? Ended up getting bounced out in the first round to the Bucks. So that was pretty much a down year, but they had the talent. They drafted well. These guys that they're drafting in the draft for the Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, who got a pick 6 on his birthday as a rookie. Jalen Carter, all these guys they're drafting, and many people are making the assumption that they're going to get Myles Garrett, which is actually insane. If they get Myles Garrett on this team like that, like it's pretty much already stacked. Like you're just stacking the deck at that point. So they have done an excellent job in drafting, and I have to give Vic Fangio a lot of credit for the game plan, because going into the Super Bowl, we did a predictions video, but after predictions, unfortunately we didn't drop it, but I saw a lot of footage, and I was like, okay, this defense is a little better than what I thought, even though they had essentially almost a triple crown winning defense. Like that defense was that prolific. If you just look at the net offense versus the net defense, clearly their strength was the defense. They had the number 1 defense in the league, and they were exceptional in short play. Playing against teams that tend to run a lot of short plays. They were pretty exceptional in that category. So when I saw that, and I saw how highly they ranked just off EPA standpoint, I wasn't really shocked that they had this performance against the Chiefs, which the Chiefs have definitely changed their play style from the high flying years of Mahomes when he first got there. So yeah, I think most of the credit goes to the Eagles defense for winning this game. The Eagles offense, they did what they needed to do, but they weren't really that impressive towards me. Saquon kind of had a slow game, but I thought the offensive coordinator and Kellen Moore did a really good job of staying with Saquon, even though it wasn't working, just to chew the clock. That's it. It's a great way to take the pressure off of Jalen Hurts, even though Jalen Hurts was really, really good. I give Jalen Hurts a B. He pretty much did what he needed to do. Receivers were creating separation, and he was fighting tight ends wide open. I have to give a lot of credit to the offensive line for buying him a lot of time. I'm sure I think he only took 1 sack. I don't remember him taking 1 sack. So, but otherwise, he wasn't really getting pressured. Even though Spagnuolo was throwing a lot of blitzes, they were getting picked up by the O-line. I don't know if Jalen Hurts was shifting the protection, or the O-line just that good, which Malik already alluded to. They're pretty giants, and they've had this they had this rep of being a really great defense. I mean, being a really great blocking offensive line. So we know that's what they are. AJ Brown and Devontae Smith had really good games, even though honestly AJ Brown had the most impactful 3 receptions for 42 yards I ever seen. Like, it just seemed like he kept on making big catches, like, quite literally.
Damn,
you got something to say, man?
He only had 42 yards.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it feels like he had like 60 or 70. You feel me? Like, they were impactful.
He did get that one play taken away when he had the offensive PI. But damn, that was a very impactful 42. It just felt like McDuffie couldn't do anything with him at all.
He couldn't, and that's what McDuffie struggles a lot with. He led up the touchdown reception to Mac Hollins. The last game. He just struggles with bigger receivers, and Kansas City. I like McDuffie. McDuffie is a perennial, all-star cornerback, and I like Jalen Watson. He's a really good cornerback too. But if you're going to play man, you have to have somebody who can guard him. And I'm sorry, AJ Brown, he only runs a few routes. If he runs a go, you better have safety help over the top.
That man only got 3 routes in his bag, man. He got a go route, he got a 3-step slant, and occasionally he had a comeback. Or I will say on that touchdown, he ran a crossing route, which I was kind of surprised that they threw that out there, because he don't run routes like that, bro. He only got like 3 routes that he run, but he's pretty effective at it.
Well, he's not really that agile, so that's why they don't have him running a crazy route tree. But it's just the offense. Let me go into my biggest point, and we're going to make a video about Patrick Mahomes and his legacy. Now, I don't think all this is on Patrick Mahomes. I know Patrick Mahomes has been getting a lot of people saying that, he's not Tom Brady. That's not the game that I saw. I'm sorry. Like I alluded to, as Mal already said, the game is won in the trenches, and if your offensive line is getting pushed back, you're most likely going to lose that game. I don't care how good your quarterback is. I don't care if your quarterback's Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. You're probably going to lose that game. So the offensive line of the Kansas City Chiefs got punked. They got punked in front of everybody. And we've had our concerns all season about, the Kansas City O-line. They had Joe Tooney. They moved Joe Tooney from guard to left tackle. And basically anything they did didn't work. Nothing that they did didn't work. I saw a play where Travis Kelce was supposed to be chipping Josh Sweat, and he gave a half-hearted effort, and Patrick Mahomes ended up getting sacked, even though it was on a tight end screen. Like, for a tight end screen, you at least have to chip your guy. So that's for the people that say blocking doesn't matter as a tight end. It for sure matters. Don't say blocking doesn't matter. It matters. So that was a big sack because, that put him it took off 5 downs. I mean 5 yards. So scenarios like that, Patrick Mahomes really did. In my opinion, I don't think he saw the field well. Now, I didn't see the all 22 yet, so I don't know if people weren't open or not, but he didn't look comfortable in the pocket. And I think when you're not settled in the pocket, that's where situations like that happen to you. And you get, circumstances where you have 33 passing yards in the first half, at the end of the first half. And fun fact, they actually didn't advance past midfield until their 10th drive. So they went 9 drives of the first 9 drives of the game, would not get even close to midfield. I think their longest play couple plays in the first half was just 5, just 5 for a non-explosive offense. So this is going to be a retooling year. They're really going to have to look at themselves differently because these losses. And I know people think, they're going to be back in here next year, and they probably might be back here next year, but their flaws were clearly on display, and it's basically a whole blueprint of how to guard them. The Eagles pretty much matched them coaching for coaching. I thought Andy Reid got out-coached. I thought Steve Spagnuolo got out-coached. I thought the Eagles had everything for them, and they had the talent gap. So, those are my thoughts on Super Bowl. I'm not really surprised this happened. The Eagles, top to bottom, have had the best roster in football. For them, the fact they were the second seed was a bit disappointing to me. Because if you just look at the talent on the roster, these guys should be number 1 seed, 15 win every year. It's every year because they can do it defensively and offensively. So I'm not really surprised about that, man. And man, I think the Kansas City Chiefs they're gonna have to look and different spots next year coming to the draft because they have a lot of holes on their team, especially on that offensive line. They're going to have to get another receiver to match up well with Xavier Worthy. So that can give them a different look on offense, because I think they just like running only RPOs is gonna take you like so long. You feel me? Like you really gonna have to throw the ball deep. You really got to make some big time throws, and they didn't do that this year. So it's kind of unfortunate, and it's really unfortunate to teams like fucking Buffalo Bills, because it's like y'all let this team drop 32 points on you. This team that almost got shut, like technically they got shut out in the Super Bowl. They got shut out in the Super Bowl. Y'all let this team score 32 points on you. They haven't scored over 30 all season. This team beat a Houston Texans team with a really great defense. So yeah, man, that's all I have to say about it. I'm passing to Jay. See what else he got to say.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and bounce off of what Buffy said. I don't think being outcoached was the biggest factor. I definitely think the overwhelming talent was the biggest factor to this game. Like, even though Andy Reid and Spagnuolo wasn't on top of the game, I mean, they were kind of working with what they had, and I mean that defense was unstoppable. Like that 4-man front was crazy, and Fangio, he made it clear that he was basically gonna pummel that O-line, which he already knew was, suspect, because they had guards playing tackle, and especially Joe Thuney. Like, that interception that Patrick Mahomes threw to Zach Bond, I mean, Joe Thuney was getting put on his ass by Josh Sweat. Like, and I'm talking about throughout the game, he was getting put on his ass. And this is who they voted as their MVP of the season. Like, the team voted Joe Thuney as their MVP. And Tom Brady even said it himself. He was like, Joe Thuney is the MVP of that team. This dude has played with Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes, and he moves to left tackle, and he gets his ass handed to him by Josh Sweat on the biggest stage in the NFL, bro. On the biggest stage, he got destroyed. And like Vic Fangio, he basically was trying to eliminate, the deep balls, and he did that for the majority of the game, except for, when Patrick Mahomes started looking like Dak Prescott at the end of the game. So Vic Fangio, he was on top of his stuff, and he finally got a win over Patrick Mahomes. But I mean, this team, like Caleb said, this team should win like 15 games a season. His team is built so well, and I know Lamar Jackson is about to catch a straight, but this was like the perfect time for him to win, because that's probably the perfect offense to counter this defense. Like, you're putting the Ravens, number one offense against the Eagles, who are basically number one defense. Like, this was the perfect time. And like Caleb said, you throw another quarterback in there, they're not winning this game. You throw Josh Allen in there, they're not winning this game. If he has that Chiefs O-line and the Chiefs skill players, you throw Lamar Jackson in there, he's not winning that game. Hell, if you throw Tom Brady in there, you're not gonna be able to win that game. Like, the overwhelming amount of defense and the lesser amount of talent that they had was the same as when Patrick Mahomes lost in Tampa. He was basically running for his life, and he didn't really have the talent there. But this Eagles, I mean, the offense they did, well, let me say that Jalen Hurts did what he was supposed to do, as he's getting paid to do. He did his job. He didn't do anything, overwhelmingly exciting, great at a great level. He just did what he was supposed to, because Spagnuolo made it clear that, hey, I'm going to eliminate Saquon Barkley, and I want Jalen Hurts to beat me. I will be fine if Jalen Hurts beats me, which I'm pretty sure a lot of defensive coordinators want to happen. They would rather have Jalen Hurts beat them over Saquon Barkley. And that's what he did. That's what happened. And I mean, Jalen Hurts, like Mal said, dude has an O-line who's on average is 6'6", over 330 pounds, bro. I would be thanking the Lord every day of the week to be behind an O-line who's on average 6'6", 330 pounds. Like, Jalen Hurts could literally sit there in the pocket, and like Mal said, he could, call up the wifey. Hell, he could read that book that AJ Brown been reading every game. I mean, he could just sit there and chill. Like, bruh's having a blast back there. But, the crazy stuff that I was hearing about Jalen Hurts is wild. Like, this dude is apparently better than, Joe Burrow. He's supposed to be better than Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, just because, he won Super Bowl MVP. But if you look at it, or if you throw any of those quarterbacks in his situation, bro, their stats are going to look crazy. And they probably be winning MVP every year. Like, Jalen Hurts should be doing what Lamar Jackson's doing. He should be winning MVPs based off of the amount of talent that he has and how great that everybody says he is. And then vice versa, Lamar Jackson, he's supposed to be doing what Jalen Hurts is doing in the postseason. All you gotta do is game manage well, and you can get to a Super Bowl. If you do that without turning the ball over, even though Jalen Hurts did turn the ball over once, if you don't turn the ball over like that, you can get to a Super Bowl and you can win just like that. Like Jalen Hurts has it perfectly easy. I know everybody talks about him winning and this and that, but I mean the brother he's had a lot of help along the way in his NFL and college career. Like he played at Alabama as a quarterback and playing at Alabama, and then the time that he was there, he had great talent, bro. Like he had great talent, and now the Eagles, he went into a great situation where he had great talent, great O-line. He's always had a very good defense. And now they finally got it done. And then you have the best running back in the league who's getting paid on average $12 million a year. $12 million a year on average. He has a contract for 3 years, 30-something million dollars, bro. Like this team has all the tools to really make it to the Super Bowl every year if they do what they're supposed to do, honestly. But, Kellen Moore, he did most likely say that he was going to take that Saints head coaching job. So I'm interested to see if he'll double down on that or, stay with the Eagles, because I know Nick Sirianni said he wanted to run it back. And it'll also be interesting.
No. Yeah, Nick Sirianni, we not trying to hear that shit, dog. If you're as great as a coach as you say that you are, you got to get that shit done without Kellen Moore. That's a fucking OC, because what is happening, and this is what I've been kind of hearing. You know what? I was going to highlight and focus on Jalen Hurts, but that may be a video for another day, because that's a relatively new quote that I've heard, Jay. I did not hear him say that. He said he wanted to run it back. He's saying that because he knows he's not really doing shit. He's not really doing shit. Coaches like Dan Campbell and Nick Sirianni, guys that don't call plays, they're supposed to, be able to maintain the culture. And I have to give them credit, because I will say what is holding this team back, because they do have all the talent, is these egos and these attitudes in the locker room. That's the type of shit that derailed them last year, even though I don't think that they were as good last year as they were this year. But they have some malcontents in that locker room, including the quarterback. So with that being said, no, Nick Sirianni, you need to prove to us that you're a good enough head coach, sir. Because I heard a lot of people saying, because typically when you win a Super Bowl, you become a made man as a head coach, as a player, so on and so forth. But niggas was saying, what does this mean that Nick Sirianni's going to keep his job? Yeah, for next season. That means that organization knows that this guy not that great, bro. You know what I'm saying? And he's been solid. I got to give him credit for being solid, but no. You want Kellen Moore to come back just to take the pressure away from you not having to call plays, or you not having to implement an OC that can call the correct plays. We not trying to hear that, bro. I'm not trying to hear that, Nick Sirianni. And, no disrespect, because you did win the Super Bowl, but stop that, dog. Let that man go out there and get a head coach job. He deserved it. Don't try to derail him and, hold him back because you're trying to obfuscate. I'm not trying to hear that shit.
Yeah, Nick Sirianni, I mean, he really don't got to do much. Him and Dan Campbell, they sitting in the same spot. And it honestly kind of reminds me of like Paul Westhead or, Pat Riley when they were playing with them Showtime Lakers. Like they were just in a great situation where they had, great talent that they really didn't have to do much. Like they're presented with great talent. All they got to do is make sure they maintain the locker room, and you really set.
And why did Paul Westhead
just do your job?
Why did Paul Westhead get fired? Because he couldn't maintain the egos in the locker room. Pat Riley could do that. Right. I think Pat Riley is a great head coach, but like you said, when you got that type of talent, all you got to do is manage the egos. You saw that's the difference between Steve Kerr and them winning championships and them losing and not being relevant. Managing the egos. The talent stays the same, you just got to manage the egos. Eagles got that same type of vibe because they really got some NBA type personalities in that locker room. So he got to maintain that. I think he was able to get away with it. They are overwhelmingly the best talent. And when Detroit getting all of those injuries, they weren't going to make it. So they had clear-cut the best talent in the league. So we'll see what happens next season when teams are going to... Because I always hear this shit. We hear this shit every time. It seems like we hear this with every team except for Kansas City. If they win a Super Bowl or they make it to the Super Bowl, oh yeah, man, this team is going to get back. Like who is going to stop this team? I said, there are other smart people in the NFL that are going to do what they need to do and require the requisite pieces because it's a copycat league to upgrade their teams and make their teams better. You trying to stand pat and just assuming that all of the other teams are going to fall at the knees to the Philadelphia Eagles is not going to fucking happen because GMs want to be able to keep their jobs and players want to be able to get over that proverbial hump. So I know we're saying that, this team got crazy talent and they should be back, but we also know how the league works. Teams are going to do what they can to get better.
Yeah, but speaking of the Eagles next season, like Buffy was saying, they might potentially get Myles Garrett and Abdul Carter from Penn State. He's been a lifelong Eagles fan since he was a kid. And bro, he's been eluding joining the Eagles so much, bro. It's kind of crazy. I actually think this dude might tank in the combine just to join the Eagles.
Well,
and if the Eagles happen to get him, bro, that's crazy. Because the Eagles, most of their team, they drafted him. So the Eagles are doing really good when it comes to finding, requisite talent. So that defense, if they get one of those guys and Myles Garrett or Abdul Carter, we could be talking about an all-time great defense. Because, I think they'll be set with the secondary even if Darius Slay leaves, because he did say that, he was considering retirement. At one point, he did say he would retire next year, but he wouldn't do so with the Eagles. So I don't really know what all of that's about. But this Eagles team, they can really do some dangerous things, in the future. So we shall see, what's next for him. And we shall see how great of a quarterback Mr. Jalen Hurts is, because a lot of people want to throw him in those conversations with those big fours. Because honestly, I guess you can, a lot of people are going to throw him in the spot, but there's still a gap when you talk about quarterback. Even though Jalen Hurts is winning, from a quarterback standpoint, there's a gap between those four guys and Jalen Hurts. Because if you throw Jalen Hurts in one of those situations, like a Patrick Mahomes with that O-line, a Josh Allen without that defense, a Joe Burrow without that defense and a bad O-line, are we really going to see the same results? Are we really going to see Jalen Hurts make it all the way to the Super Bowl, bro? Let's be honest here. His best bet would be, once again, on a team like the Ravens, who have, a great defense, great O-line, and then they got a great running back. If we throw him in that position, he'll probably do what he's doing now on the Eagles. But if you throw him in one of those other positions with those guys, he's not giving the same results. If you throw him in the same position, you throw him in the position that Jaden Daniels was in, he's not giving those same results. Jaden Daniels could be in Jalen Hurts' position, and he could look way better. He would look great. If you throw Baker Mayfield in Jalen Hurts' position, Baker Mayfield's numbers are looking crazy. Let's pump the brakes off the Jalen Hurts talks. Because it's a difference between those four big dogs and Jalen Hurts. That's all I'm saying.
I have one also thing I forgot to say, and I kind of said in the beginning, and Jay said, you said a point where I was talking about the line, or actually the coaching, because I actually thought the Chiefs, unlike what they did in the Super Bowl against Tampa Bay, they actually tried to combat the pass rush, and it just didn't work. So I actually forgot to allude to that, because they had what they did in the Super Bowl against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers was, honestly, it was malpractice. It was malpractice. They came unprepared, and this year they was unprepared too. But you can kind of see more of the aspect of, they were just outmatched, physically, talent wise. They just weren't the better team. So that's also a point. Also, forgot to say in there. Also, I know Jalen Hurts talks are going to come up, and people are going to say he's, in these quarterback talks. Me personally, I don't think he's there. But also I will say this though, because we can say the but ifs, all that. He is Super Bowl champion, and his resume does look pretty good. He has Pro Bowl and stuff like that. So I think his resume actually looks really good compared to a lot of these quarterbacks, especially in the NFC. He pretty much has the best resume right now, if you're not including Stafford or anybody. So, Jalen Hurts, he's a good quarterback. I don't think he's in those talks yet, but who knows? If they get, they can sprinkle on a couple more championships. I don't think they can. I think this is a team that, I think Shannon Sharp actually alluded to this on First Take today, he was basically saying, yeah, like this team is a type that you can see them in about 2 more Super Bowls while their core is intact, and they can probably win off one, but they're not really gonna be a dynasty. Dynasties are hard to come by. They are really hard to come by, and I think players, the media, fans, they kind of get all enamored in, who's next dynasty, the Chiefs got to fall off somehow, and dynasties are really hard to happen. They are really hard to come by. So I don't think this team's going to be a dynasty, but they do have a really good core, and with the way they're drafting, like NFC teams have basically figured out, we're not gonna get the great quarterbacks, but we pretty much have to maintain our offense and defense. We got to build a phenomenal offensive line to have great, receiving cores, and the defense has to be legit. So they pretty much figured that out. So yeah, that's what kind of the AFC needs to do, because these niggas, they kind of just like, AFC's pretty much ran by a couple people. Like they don't really play coherent football, in my opinion. That's why I think they keep on losing to the Chiefs. Which the Chiefs in the last 2 years honestly haven't really been that good. I don't think that, because they had a dip in production this year from going to the Super Bowl and winning, but I don't think the last 2 Chiefs years, 2023 and this year, have been all inspiring. I thought they could have honestly this year they were more so like a 12-13 win team to me, instead of like a 15-2 team, or really 16-1, because they pretty much didn't care about that last game. So yeah, those are my thoughts, man. If y'all got anything else to say, you can say something.
Maybe what I'm about to say is for another video, but you just alluded to, like, everybody's looking for that next dynasty, and people are saying, oh well, the Chiefs, they gotta stop winning somehow. But it's like, all these niggas that want a dynasty, you just had your dynasty. Like, it just goes to my conversation about people not really respecting what they're seeing, because you have some acts against a player or against a certain team, a franchise. You got your damn dynasty right there, but you don't want to acknowledge it. You want to hate on it. And when people like me say that this team is the most hated, people are saying, oh well, how are they hated? They're clearly not. I'm talking about these other teams, because this is one thing, and maybe Buffy meant to say this. The reason why the Eagles won't be a dynasty is because in order to be a dynasty, you need a great quarterback, because there's going to be at least one championship that you win in that dynasty where you're not technically the best team. You don't have the best talent, and you're going to have to get over the hump because of your great player or players. Like, let's go back to all of these rings. Let's go back to all of these dynasties. The Lakers in the early 2000s, they should have lost to Sacramento Kings in the Western Conference Finals. They weren't the best team. They won that because of their overwhelming best players. Let's go to the 80s Lakers. Magic Johnson, those guys, when they played against Isaiah Thomas and the Pistons, they weren't supposed to win that. They won that off of experience because they had great players and great talent. Michael Jordan, 1998, they weren't that great of a team. They won that because they had the best player in the league. So if you don't have a great quarterback, you're not going to be a dynasty. And do people really want to see dynasties, is my question, because we just had one and nobody wanted to acknowledge it or respect it. Like, there were people questioning if this Chiefs team was a dynasty because of bullshit like style points, or they're not winning in the way that I want them to win. They're not putting up 30 points a game. It's like, but you got a dynasty right there. So there's a lot of disingenuous statements out there. Not talking about Buff, but just talking about people in general, that you just had your dynasty. It may be over for right now, and you're talking about, well, maybe the Eagles are not going to be a dynasty. I think they're going to be very competitive. They can probably get to another Super Bowl, maybe win another one. But you just had a dynasty. Like that shit is dead. There's probably going to be a little bit more parity in the league, in my opinion. I think that'd be good for the league, because if people really want to see other people win, why do you niggas want to see the Eagles repeat? See what I'm saying? They're not really making a whole lot of sense. Me personally, I want to see one of these other guys, these great quarterbacks that don't have as competent franchises as the Philadelphia Eagles with Howie Roseman, like Josh and Burrow, Lamar Jackson. These guys that have actually been great and have had to put that Superman cape on, I want to see one of those guys win, because those guys are actually great. They're not getting carried. They don't have the luxury of having the best running back in the league, having the best defense in the league, the best offensive line in the league, exceptional OCs and DCs. They don't have that luxury. They got to actually put their big boy pants on and actually go out there and win the game and damn near be perfect. Meanwhile, Jalen Hurts can get away with throwing for 150 yards a game throughout the course of the regular season and play well and give a B average performance in the Super Bowl. Now we want to put him in top 5 combos. Damn, it must be nice. It's real nice, ain't it, Jalen Hurts? You can be a 10 to 15 level quarterback and niggas want to put you in top 5 combos. Say you're on a Hall of Fame trajectory. Hey, get out of there with that bullshit, man.
Hey man, all I'm gonna say is at the end of this video, congratulations to the Philadelphia Eagles for winning I think this is their third championship, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
the third. Cause they won one before 2017, right? It's like old.
I don't know.
Or maybe this is their third appearance.
I think this is their second championship, their third appearance because they played against the Patriots.
They're fourth. They played against the Patriots. Yeah, they're like 1-1 against the Patriots.
I think they only got 2.
This is their second. This is their second win.
Okay, well, congratulations to the Philadelphia Eagles.